This is a spot right here, probably one of my favorite hunts from this past season. Shot a deer we called the hay blower buck. Early summer, September, he was actually 300, 400 yards from this field right here. And another field had one of our troughs on with monster meal in there. And then, after probably the middle toward the end of September, he actually moved over here in this area. JJ and I came in here, hung a stand in that tree right there where there's no leaves on it right now, but just had that perfect cold front. And this is a crabapple tree right here behind us, and it was a pretty awesome experience.
We actually had a protein block sitting right over there too, because we
That's
had
right.
a camera on that little oak tree, and we was feeding the protein blocks right there, and him and the Funky 8 just kind of showed up in here out of the blue all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And Garth was even in here.
That's right.
We had all three of them in here, off and on that week.
And you think with them being so close, I mean, we had him on that monster mill trough for the longest time, that you'd have at least one picture of him. But we didn't get the first picture of him until probably like October 3rd or 4th, I think. And I think it was somewhere around either the 15th or 16th is when we came in here and actually got him. But yeah, several of the deer moved over here. There's just a lot of really good bedding, between both these fields where he was on early season to right here. There's just a lot of good bedding cover in here.
When they get big like that too, they concentrate their core areas so much, and the evidence. You're getting pictures on a feeder, and one reason a guy might want to use a feeder is they're really a good way. Most of the deer are going to hit that feeder at one point or another. Whereas you can put cameras all around this food plot. It's not a huge food plot. My deer love to walk around my cameras. Like, I know they're right there and I don't get a picture of them, but they're there.
Right.
And, right. I don't know whether they hear the cameras go off or whatnot, but cameras are my greatest frustration in life. And because I'm not good at using them. I don't think I am anyway. But by putting a destination feeder somewhere, a lot of times you can at least catch a few pictures of that deer. Identify that there's a deer of, age class or a deer you have history with, and so don't be afraid to use them just as a tool.
I think y'all ended up putting 2 or 3 cameras out, trying to just pick them up at different places.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of circled this whole area. There's actually an old logging road about 50 yards right up here, and we actually started in some blue stem up there trying to pick him up on the backside of the original hay blower field and trying to pinpoint exactly where he was coming from.
Yeah, we tried to find him. I mean, there were a couple of weeks in there, like those last 2 weeks of September, he disappeared completely.
He went
So
on us.
you just like you said, moving him around, just trying to pinpoint exactly where he is. And we put the block in here, and I think the Funky 8 was the first deer to show up in here. But then when he got settled in here, he was kind of permanent, and we really didn't mess with it until we had the perfect wind, had a little bit of a cold front. That's my favorite time to hunt, is when you have that first little cold snap in the middle of October. It's always a pretty good, recipe for success, and we had it that day for sure.
And we got lucky, because this is a really hard field to set up on with the wind getting in and out, because really that tree is the only tree that had any cover on it to get in here.
And we weren't 100% sure where the deer was coming out of either.
Right.
Well, a lot of us thought he was coming out here from this bottom. But then when I sat in here that afternoon, all of them came from the back of this field, just made a straight line, coming in the middle of this field. So
Garth spent a little bit of time over here behind us.
yeah.
He did. Garth would come up out of this bottom, and that's was one of the things we were scared of if he was bedding in there, because really that northwest wind was the best wind that we could get for this field with all the amount of bedding cover we got on this side of it.
And even though it's a small field, there's just little room for error too. Like, you needed a strong, consistent wind, and I was a little bit worried. We finally had it, but the wind was blowing really hard that afternoon, which was good. But deer down here, at least, they tend not to move as good on really strong windy days, but they did that day. One of the things we have going for us up here too is that we have neighbors that are all in a line with us. We share a lot of the same information on deer, what deer we're going to take, what deer we're going to try to let walk. And for the most part, we all kind of line up, and we all agree on the quality of deer that we're all looking to get out of both these properties. And so that really, I know, plays to our advantage. It's good having the land, but when you have neighbors that are on the same feed programs and that on the same management style, that really helps.
Absolutely. It's one of the hardest things to deal with is when you have a neighbor who's kind of either taking advantage of all your hard work or undoing your hard work, and we call that competition. And then cooperation is when everybody kind of wants to see the same deer. I've watched hunt clubs evolve to where they were competitive with their neighbors, and now they're okay because the neighbor's just as invested in there and growing those big deer, older deer, or improving the population numbers or anything like that. But at the end of the day, we all have tags, we all want to fill them, and you don't control your neighbor's demeanor. That's kind of one of the reasons I was asking why the feeder placement on the other farm. Some people will place feeders specifically to draw activity away from that competitive side, because they want to provide the benefit without providing an ancillary benefit to a non-contributing partner or someone who just doesn't share the same goals. But it's one of those things, and I think hunting's probably more competitive now than it's been in a long time, and a lot of that's because people are investing more into it.
Sure.
But it's, cooperatives, I think, are going to become more and more prevalent. They're a good thing because it allows small landowners to create big blocks of management cover, and more small properties are more personalities to manage, but in the end, I really think it's just a benefit if everyone makes some contribution to it. It'll improve. And you're lucky.
We shared photos from the year before that deer, so we were going to pass, let them get another age, another birthday. So they were all on board with us, and so that makes it a little bit easier and comfort that, hey, I ain't got to shoot this deer this year. Let's just roll the dice, and it doesn't always mean that deer's going to be here next year.
That's right.
And that is a roll of the dice, but having the same mindset really helped us to, get another year on that deer. And he did jump a few inches, several inches, in size. And even the deer the year before that Tyler got the same thing on our other neighbor. They knew the deer was there. They had trail camera pictures, but we worked together with it. Now we were fortunate enough the deer, stayed on us majority of the time. And Tyler got shot at this deer and the other one, but neighbor help. I can't stress enough about if you know your neighbors and you have the same values of what you want to achieve. Really important for all of us.
It makes the whole experience better when you get along with your neighbor.
It does.
Period.
100%.
No and that doesn't matter if you're in a house across the driveway or on thousands of acres. It's just part of being a good steward is being a good steward to everything. And everybody should try to just, at the end of the day, it's deer hunting.
That's right. It's just deer hunting. That means some of the best times is, if you're not the one that is that's lucky enough to take them, being able to go to their cooler and, share the story because you may have the same history with that deer, that they do. So it's good getting along with your neighbor.
It's better for us they come to our cooler.
100%.
I'm just, no. But no, it is good, share those same ideas about, how we hunt. The neat thing for me anyway, it's not so much about the harvest of the deer. That's obviously a lot of people's goals, but just following that deer, knowing what that deer's done from one year to the next, and you're fortunate enough to get him back on trail cameras and identify him. But for me, it's not so much a game. I hate to say it that way. It's just fun to track that deer and just have a history with him. And so much has been said. We're talking about bigger deer and stuff like that, which is the ultimate goal for a lot of people. But we've taken some really nice 125-inch 8-pointers and good management deer and low-end, type deer, 130. Your sister is a good case in point this past year. Got a really nice 130-inch deer, and that could have been a 160, 170 deer for her. So.
She was happy. That's all that mattered.
Oh gosh, she was happy, and the management practices, we all want to see. And so, that deer had a few age, he's old enough, obviously. It's just fun to track these deer. And Garth, who we talked about just a minute ago, Garth may move #1 in this area right here for this coming year.
He disappeared too.
Garth went MIA big time too. Him and the Funky 8 both, and they both disappeared about the same time.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of fun, just being able to track those deer, because we all get disappointed, and they'd leave us 5, 6, 8 weeks at a time, like, oh my gosh, where'd they go? And all of a sudden they get one picture and they be gone another month.
It's like worrying about kids. They're gone. What do they do?
Yeah.
I think it changes the whole experience too. I grew up in upstate New York, where when I was a kid, if a deer had antlers, it was bonus.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't matter if it was a spike or anything. And we hunted like that for years, and that really, it didn't hurt the deer population. We just had a lot of deer and they were really young. And then the other segment that we hunted was the really big woods up in the Adirondacks, where you didn't run into deer, so when you got the opportunity to kill a buck, you killed a buck.
Yeah.
Where now, we have technology, we have time, we're actually investing in those deer. It creates a personal attachment to that deer, because now there's a level of excitement that when you accomplish a goal, I mean, the reason you do all of this is not just to kill the deer. We talked about that a little bit more. There's a satisfaction in augmenting habitat and watching deer grow and accomplishing goals and seeing how things change and learning and everything. And the learning for me, I'm not formally educated in very much of anything, but I engage in a lot of things, and it's really important. And it's really important because without these opportunities, we're not going to create more stewards, young people that have a stewardship mentality. The world, I don't think, really promotes a stewardship mentality. It's really a self mentality.
I think one of the neat things for us that we've done, I know a couple of years ago, we like getting younger people, youth up here. And the last day of the season, we had 4 kids under 12, I think under 13, hunting with their dads. And we did that several times during the year. And they were just equally as happy with, getting a doe to, one of our management deer, which we are too. And several years ago, one of the best years we ever had on our management deer, we had, I think we took 8 or 9 management deer off with kids, all of them with kids. I told Roger, and everything back in the day, I said, look, let's get some kids up here and let them enjoy the outdoors. I got just as big a thrill out of that, these 115, 120, 125 inch deer, and see the smile of those kids. I mean, introduce them to the outdoors. The last deer I shot on this property was 130 inch 8-point, and tickled to death.
Some deer are never going to be
Exactly.
any bigger than what they are. They're going to be. And we had talked about the property we have in Kentucky is kind of like mid 130s 8s are everywhere. And we've spent 4 years trying to kill those deer, not because we were trying to improve genetics, but because we were trying to reduce some of the pressure on the resources that we had. And those are nice deer. I mean, my idea of a management deer is any deer I manage to kill. Okay. I don't get a ton of time to hunt, and when I do, I like to kill deer. That's why I bring a weapon, not a camera. So yeah, it's so dynamic, and there's no one thing that when you see something on this scale, it's amazing. And that you share it is even better, because it's one thing to have it and no one experiences it, no one knows, no one learns, no one benefits. It's just
Absolutely.
Well, like you said earlier, Bill made a great point. Once you get to our age, I mean, watching a kid go out there and kill a deer, no matter what size it is, and the excitement in that kid's life is an unforgettable moment. And I'd heck a lot rather take any kid to kill a deer at any time than I would me kill one myself anymore. It means that much more to me to see that excitement in them kids, the way I was when I was their age, when I started hunting with my stepdad and all that. So
I think the enjoyment for all of us up here is having the opportunity, the resources to be able to take these kids hunting and introduce them to the outdoors. And,
that's right.
We manage the property for those. We talked about that earlier, but this property right here, roughly 40 does, the other property around 45, and a lot of those deer were taken by kids.
Yeah.
And so it gives them an introduction to the outdoors they never would have an opportunity. And the same thing with some of our management deer, our bucks and stuff. I'd much rather see a youth take one than me or any of y'all or anything else. So,
Well, and most importantly too, I think just the overall habitat improvements you've made on this place since you first bought it a long time ago. I mean, that to me is just, coming up here as a young kid, seeing all the different food plots, what we've done with the timber up here. I mean, we've made it better every year. I feel like every year we've done something to improve this place, and that's when you talk about stewardship, that's what you really want, is you're going to leave this place better than how you found it.
Of course, you know me better than anybody here, but it's about sharing. It's not a deal that we just keep as our family and all that. It's about sharing with others, introducing kids to the outdoors. And, I was fortunate to have all 3 of my kids like the outdoors, and I was with all 3 of them when they shot their first deer. And to me, that's very rewarding for me, being a dad. So,
one of my mentors when I was a kid said, you only get one first in anything.
that's true.
So to be part of that first, no one's ever going to repeat that again. So that is a big thing.